So if we could get the next slide, please. So we're gonna have some checking questions right now, and the poll is gonna come up, and we're gonna ask you guys each one of these questions. So the first question we're gonna start off with is, how are you feeling from a scale from 1 to 10? These questions are anonymous, so don't feel pressure to have to say a specific number. It's week 8. I think we're all definitely feeling something. So the polls just came up, and you guys should be able to start voting. We also have some other questions that are, what year are you guys? What is your favorite kind of movie? And what is the best holiday? Ooh, I see some Christmas. I could definitely agree.
I'm also seeing a healthy amount of 7s, which
Yeah,
I'm very proud of.
we're definitely excited for that energy, and you guys doing well. Okay, it looks like we have around the same number of first, second, third, and fourth years. Awesome. So as you see, everyone's feeling pretty good, I guess you could say. A 7's good. First year, second year, and fourth year is actually tied, so that's pretty sick. And wow, no one likes horror? Nah, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to agree with that one. And I definitely do agree. Christmas is one of the best holidays. So if we could go on to the next slide, please. Awesome. So we have these amazing speakers here for you guys. So the first one we have here is Erica. If you could shoot your confetti, please. Erica is a UCLA Honors Fellows alum, and she's going to be a graduate student at Duke University. Next on our list is Gabby. Gabby is a UCLA Honors Fellow alum as well, and Gabby is currently a Teach for America Spanish instructor. Mikey is next on the list as well. She is currently the director for Tagalong Kids. And next on our list, we have Katrina. Katrina is a UCLA alum who studied biology. She got her master's in public health at Loma Linda University, and she is currently involved with biotechnology. And finally, last but not least, we have Ryan. Ryan is a business system analyst at Intercom. So now we're going to go into specific topics about turning your passions into a profession. And I'm going to pass it on to my good friend, Millen.
Hi, everyone, and thank you again to our speakers for being here. If we could switch the slide, there we go. So just to get us started for today, our first topic is going to be postgraduate life. Speakers, you see a couple questions on your slide, but if you could just touch on any of the stepping stones that you took immediately after leaving UCLA, how they compare to where you are now, and any advice, lessons you've learned since then that you think would be appropriate for us to take with us.
Is there a specific order we go in, or oh, sorry. Oh, Erica, go for it.
You go.
Okay. All right. So just an introduction. My name is Ryan. I graduated from UCLA in 2016 with a BS in stats. Plans immediately after college were pretty turbulent. I was actually doing photography for a sock printing company out in El Segundo, and then I realized, like, after the summer, right after college is over, I decided, okay, like, what do I want to do? And I decided that it was going to be teaching. So I started applying to like a master's program, trying to figure out like how I would get that teaching credential, because my main focus was I want to work with kids. I'm really good at tutoring, been doing it for like 10 years, especially during college. But that didn't work out as planned, because once I got that acceptance letter to a master's program, I was like, I think I would rather just get a job because I don't like school. That's just my personal preference. So from there, that jump-started my career. I was fortunate to get my first job at LinkedIn, worked there under a contract job for about a year, and it started off my career in tech. So now I work at a startup. It's called Intercom. And there's a lot in between there, but I've had about 4 different jobs, jumped about 4 different times in between. And I still can't believe that like I'm where I'm at, because thinking when I first graduated, like I was thinking, oh, I just want to do photography. I want to like, take photos. I want to go out and do art. But that really changed and did like a full 360. Now I sit at a computer all day, but I still enjoy it.
Did anyone else have anything to add for this question? Erica, were you going to add something there? I thought I heard you talk.
I just graduated in 2020, so I don't have as much job experience right now, but I will say that when I was a senior, I thought that I would be applying that year for graduate programs, and I ended up I ended up realizing that it was a little bit too soon and that I didn't have everything quite lined up. So I took a gap year. So that gap year was really helpful for me, not only just to kind of solidify my applications, but to also really reflect on whether I truly did want to do a PhD in history. And so that was really helpful.
Hi, I'm Katrina. I graduated a long time ago in 2013. I did a biology at UCLA, and I knew I wanted to do like healthcare. So I got my master's in public health, and now I'm working in the biotech industry. You probably heard of like AstraZeneca. I'm working at a company right now called Walker in microbiology. So I like wasn't really sure exactly what I wanted to get into. So I did do a master's like a couple years after I started working. But if I could give everybody like one piece of advice, it would be like it's so stressful. Like right after you graduate, you kind of have like an existential crisis and like, what am I gonna do with my life? But trust me, like after you get your first job, it's like way easier, and companies will see like you graduated from a good school. You have some experience like after your first job, and so many doors will open up for you. So just like that time right after graduating, it's really scary, but it is like all worth it, and in the end, and you'll get like a really good job eventually.
All right, thank you all for your answers and advice. I'm sure all of that will be much needed and much useful. Just to smooth things out for the remainder of the presentation, after we introduce the questions, if speakers wanted to raise their hands on through Zoom, and then we will call on you guys just to give everyone a better sense of clarity. And now I think Deanna will introduce the next topic.
Yeah, so hi everyone. I think we'll stick with the same slide, I guess. So the second question that we have on here is, if you could give your past self one piece of advice, what would it be? So anyone can feel free to raise their hand here. Let's see. Okay, Ryan, do you want to go?
I think one piece of advice, especially if you're looking to get a job right out of college, is to widen your search. There's a lot of like the job market's pretty hot right now, and if you're unsure of like what you want to go into, find something that kind of interests you. And my piece of advice was to not be so like, I guess, horse or narrow-minded into like what I wanted to do. Like my first thought going into the job market was like, I want to find a data analyst role. But eventually I ended up in some lateral movement into like a role called data quality. Wasn't much of like using my degree so much, but I did take a lot that I learned at UCLA through my degree over to like that job, and actually allowed me to grow into my own career. Having an analytical background actually is really fruitful. Jumping between jobs, because having that analysis and able to create reports, dashboards, things like that, it's something that carries over from a lot of roles for entry-level roles. So I'd say be open. If you hear something that interests you, go for it, because most of the time recruiters on the other end, when they see that UCLA name, they're like, oh great, we can pick someone who's young, who's hungry, and we can level them up. It's pretty intimidating at first, and there's that, like Katrina said, once you get that first job, rest of the career becomes so much easier. Widen your search. That that would be my huge advice to myself too. Saves a lot of time.
I think that's also definitely really helpful in during the pandemic. It's really important to widen your search and really be open. Erica, did you want to go next?
Yeah, I wanted to say, I think if I could give myself a piece of advice, it would be to make sure to really, once you figure out maybe kind of the direction you want to go in, to ask a lot of questions, and don't be afraid to ask questions, especially to professors or people that you really admire. Don't be afraid to reach out to people, because people really like to give advice and feel like they're helping. And I just know that when I was applying to grad school, when I was asking professors and other grad students and professors at other universities for advice, they gave me such helpful feedback. And I know that if I hadn't asked all of those different people for advice, that I wouldn't have gotten into the schools I did get into. So that's what I would say to myself.
Thank you so much for all of your helpful advice. I think we can move on to the next slide now. So for the next few questions, they're related to this book called The Roadmap, which is assigned to a lot of our honor students. And in the Roadmap book, it talks about this idea called life subjective truths, which really talks about the idea that often growing up, we were told about what things were true, especially in regards to maybe what success looks like. Maybe like you should become a doctor or something like that. So the idea of subjective truths really highlights the importance of recognizing that these truths aren't exactly true anymore, and the success is really in the eye of the beholder. So these few questions really highlight that concept. So the first question I have for you is, how did you identify your true passions after graduation? So again, feel free to raise your hand and anyone can speak up here. Ryan, you want to speak up?
I'm gonna let Erica go first because I've been going first each time. Sorry.
Oh no, I kind of wanted to go first, but I guess so. In my family, all of my siblings and my dad are lawyers, and so I kind of always thought that that was a version of success in my mind. And also, just to me, success used to mean some like going into a type of business or career that was really lucrative. But I think really that's a bad way to think about going into career, because you can have success in any career you go into, just as long as you're passionate about it. And I guess I realized that I'm really passionate about history when I was writing this random essay, and then I found this article about something about Latin American history, and I kept like doing research on the side about that and going down these different rabbit holes. And I think the fact that I was finding so much joy of going down these rabbit holes and doing this research that wasn't for any type of paper or anything made me realize that that was really what I was passionate about. And definitely a lot of people advised me that maybe PhD in history isn't the wisest choice because it is difficult to find a job afterwards. And as a PhD student, you don't really make a lot of money, but I think it's important to do what you're passionate about.
Ryan, if you'd like to go.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Success, or I guess my true passion was I just wanted to be good at something. And also as I tried to achieve that, I realized my true passion is being able to do all the things that I don't want to do at work. Being able to, do photography, be able to spend time with family, I find extremely important. So like finding a balance in my life of being able to do all of this really became like a true passion. So as I'm going through my career, I'm also trying to think, how can I balance everything? Like, how can I do a little bit of this? And it's not always going to be like flat balanced at each time. Some days I'm really going to be working a lot, grinding. Being a startup, you have a lot of hours that you got to put in that a normal company that's already public wouldn't normally do. So being able to spend time there, but also being able to focus on like art, being able to focus on my family, and also setting myself up for the future. So like not necessarily like one specific passion, but more of like a life passion of just being a balanced human.
Yeah, Katrina, would you like to add here?
Yeah, so my passion, or what I thought I really wanted to do when I was at UCLA was I volunteered a lot at the hospital. So if you're like a health major, you probably are thinking, oh, like a doctor or dentist, and helping people improve their overall health and helping the communities improve their overall health. I mean, especially during the pandemic, we see how important it is. So that was kind of like thing that I wanted to do after graduating. But that's why I did a master's in public health. So just kind of what Ryan said, be really open to exploring different career paths and doing things that you think will drive you every day. Because I mean, sometimes people get their fulfillment from work, but sometimes people get their fulfillment from outside of work. So your work might not necessarily, you know, be like 100% what you want to do every day. Just think about doing something that you actually like and you're actually good at. But yeah, it's hard to mesh your passion with like what you're good at, but just trying to like find different avenues. Like there's so many healthcare professions that you can look into. There's so many different avenues. Like I didn't even really know about biotech when I was at UCLA, and it's like a great field to go into. So just really like being open to different experiences, and your idea of success might differ from somebody else's idea of success. Your idea of success might be like having a family or spending time with your friends, and that might not necessarily always be what you find in your work. So just kind of think about what you really want and what you really find to be fulfilling for you.
Thank you for that. I think your discussion of success is a really great segue into our second question, which is, did your idea of success conflict with your passion? Ryan, you can start us off.
Yeah, so my previous idea of success was to make a lot of money. I was very hyper focused into that of like, how am I going to get a six-figure salary? How am I going to get, you know, those fat bonuses that I keep hearing about out in the world? Yeah, that came. I'm not going to lie, it did come, but it also at a huge cost of my own well-being, my own mental health, my own like relationships, to be frank. So that's when I really started to take a step back and realize like, okay, maybe having like, you know, the fat salary and like big bonuses really isn't what I want. And I did a lot of soul searching, and I'm still doing it. It's not something that you're ever going to finish doing. Your passion is something that is flexible and is going to change over time. Like right now, I just want to be, you know, be able to spend time with, I live with my girlfriend, so I want to be able to spend time with her. But I know that if I want to work more, it's going to eat into that. So therefore, like, it's a little bit of a balance work. And also just make sure you don't work too much, because the other people around you will notice and they'll call you out on it too.
Thank you for that. I think we're going to move on to our next topic, which I believe Anna will be handling.
Hi. Yeah, so the noise is a concept from the roadmap book that we use in honors, and it's sort of the word that we use to describe the whirlwind of voices, expectations, advice that you asked for and also didn't ask for, that you encounter as you sort of go through life and you try to find your passion, try to find a job that you're satisfied with, and find that work-life balance that we all know is so important. And it can come from family, friends, teachers, counselors, and society at large telling you to get that bag at all costs, even though that isn't necessarily what you need to do for your health. And it tells us what's desirable and what our goals should be. So my question for you guys is, what kind of noise did you encounter as you guys were working towards your career or right after you graduated college during that sort of turbulent time that you've all mentioned? Yes, Erica, you can start us off.
So just as kind of some background information, as a PhD student, I'm going to be researching ideals of female beauty in Latin America and the history of that. And when I was an undergrad and when I was applying to graduate programs, I spoke with a lot of different professors about my research topic. And I got a lot of different feedback. Some professors were, and they weren't rude in saying this, it was actually them trying to help me a lot, but they said that it might be a bad idea because it's kind of a narrow topic and it might seem a little superficial or trivial. So that was difficult because I felt like I had something here that was really important and I saw the meaning behind it and I just thought it had a lot of merit, the topic, but some professors didn't feel that way. But I think it's important when you reach that difficult bridge to really assess whether you think it's really important, because I thought that the topic had merit. And so I kind of just went with it. And I found other people in that niche and other professors that supported that. And and now I'm going to a PhD program for that. So if you really have a strong feeling about something that has a lot of meaning to you, then I would say try to, know that some people might be giving you advice to not pursue that topic or that passion, but to just not ignore it, but just, I don't know, not to ignore it, but maybe pursue that a little deeper if you really feel strongly committed to it.
Giving Ryan some time to decide if he wants to jump in on this one. Always get no. Okay, absolutely not from Ryan. Erica, that was a wonderful answer. I really, as Emery said in the chat, when you seek advice from people that you respect and they give you the answer that you don't want, that can be really hard to learn from and deal with, and to double down on something that you're sure of and you're passionate in it's a learning experience, and it takes a lot of strength. So my respect to you on that. If none of our other speakers would like to weigh in on this first question, we can move on to the second. And this is, how did you defy the expectations placed upon you? And this can be expectations from family members. Erica, you had a family of lawyers. It can be from friends, it can be from professors, really anyone in your life who wanted something out of you, as everyone generally does, as we live in a society. You can raise your hands or just unmute yourself and give your words, whichever you'd like.
I can go.
Please.
So like coming from an immigrant household, of course, like being a doctor or a lawyer was like an expectation that was like placed on like my sister and I. But it's pretty much all comes down to like what you find important in life, and if you really want to commit to what your parents or your family thinks about you versus what you really want, because at the end of the day, it is your career and your life that you are living. So say like you want a family by X age, or you want to not do medicine, that's totally fine. And it's just really thinking and digging deep about like what is going to drive you, because you're the one that's going to have to go to work and like do all these things. So I didn't do medicine necessarily, but I did like public health or other things where I could still make a difference in the healthcare realm. And like I said, there's so many different healthcare avenues, like SLP or OT, PT. There's so many things that people can do in life, and not a lot of people talk about these other options. So really like exploring the different options that you might want to take, and like nurse practitioner, PA school. There's so many things that might not necessarily require as much school, or something that might be like, hey, this fits me way better. So really thinking about what you want and like what best fits your personality.
Yeah, I think self-reflection is our best tool for figuring out what expectations we want to fill and which ones we want to deny and move on from. That's an excellent piece of advice. Erica or Ryan, if you'd like to, or Gabby, you unmuted yourself. Jump in.
I did. Hello, everyone. Sorry I came in late, but it's good to be here. So yes, when I saw this question, I was like, whoa, because I have just recently, I've been reading this book. It's called Think Like a Monk, and it's so good. Like I was just thinking about this yesterday, like how do you defy the expectations placed upon you? And honestly, I am still still trying to figure that out, because even as we enter a career, like for me, I currently teach and I love it. Quarantine is making me rethink, though. I hate teaching online, but it is what it is. But just thinking about what it's like, I love this profession, I love what I do, and it's like, but what do I actually want to do in the future? Because I know this isn't like, I don't want to stay in this profession forever. I know there's something else for me. So just thinking about first of all, it's like, what are your values, and analyzing your values and being like, okay, well, was this something that was like, do I value this because my parents said I do? It's like, but do I actually? It's like, do I value this because so like media says I should do it? Like, is this what I want to continue on? So first of all, like assessing your values, making sure like this is actually what I want or not. And then from there, it's like, well, if you're not happy with what you're doing, it's probably because the work or the career you've chosen or the career you're at is not like meeting the values that you actually desire. So shutting out the noise is so hard, but it's something that I continue doing, and you'll never stop doing, no matter, I think, in whatever career you are, because I think we're all just striving to find that career, find that place in life where we're just happy with what we're doing. So yes.
Thank you, Gabby. Also, wonderful book recommendation. That's an excellent book to read if you guys are thinking along these lines. And I think I'll hand it off to Jack for the next section of the presentation.
Brilliant. Yes, this is the last set of slides before we're going to go into the breakout room. So I'd like to take a minute to thank our speakers for their time, as well as the attendees for your time. And we're doing it for you, and we're glad that you're coming and taking advantage of it. Yeah, so these questions are similar to previous ones about life's subjective truths and sort of the interaction between passions and career choices and how they affect one another for better or for worse. So the first one here, how did your passions support your career choices? Anyone that'd be interested? I think I'd personally like to hear from Ryan about the U-turn from photography to tech and sort of how those play on each other still, or how they did back then, if you'd like to share. And then anyone else?
Yeah, I can kick this one off. So two passions of mine that I like to do outside of work is photography and, well, not really work, but teaching. I like working and, working with someone and giving them knowledge. So that actually translated into some side projects at work. And that gave me, creative freedom to do some things like, for example, at LinkedIn, when I was there, I was able to do headshots for people and participate in, actually building out a studio, doing headshots, and then for internal employees. For teaching, as part of my role, I have to train end users, also known as salespeople, on how to use technology. So I hold weekly trainings, and I still get to work with people and try and teach basically older generations how to use technology, like how to convert something to a PDF. We all know that is the most frustrating feeling out there. But finding those, I like to call those small wins within your career. And that really elevates, how much you enjoy work. Those small wins I look forward to, they keep me going throughout the day, and I really like those.
Yeah, that's great. I think trying to find where you can incorporate the two, even if your career is maybe not what your passion is, and keep working with that is an incredibly important thing to try to make happen. Anyone else? Move on to the next question. Maybe someone will jump at that. Ooh, Erica, go for it.
So as being a history major as an undergraduate, I think I saw some people chatting about that. I definitely always doubted the practicality of that major, and then also deciding to do a PhD in history, I definitely doubted the practicality, especially because the job market for professors in history is really terrible. And so I guess my answer to this question is, because it asks, how did you overcome that doubt? I actually haven't. I think that's always something in my mind, but I think in speaking with professors and other graduate students, I think it's really good actually to be kind of open-minded, and to, instead of maybe just overcoming the doubt and being really confident that, okay, I'm going to do this exact profession, to maybe just be open-minded to thinking about, okay, here's what I'm going into. If you're going into a PhD program, or if you have this passion or something, kind of think about different jobs you could do with that. And yeah, just keeping your mind open and being okay with it, with that doubt.
That's a great point. I think there's a process there. I think that overcome is very final. It's a very final verb, and I think that it's maybe less of that and more of becoming comfortable with having that doubt and still being able to continue on. Yeah. Katrina, Gabby, any parting thoughts before we move to breakout rooms?
Just like if you doubt like the practicality of like what you're interested in, that's okay. Like I feel like that's a normal part of life. And sometimes you don't need to make your passion your job. You can do that as a side hustle. You can do that after work or whatever. But trying to find a job that you can tolerate for the most part is like really important. And like I was a ecology evolutionary biology major. We don't use that like in my microbiology lab, and I never used like a lot of what I learned, but it does help you get to where you want to go. So if you have doubts, that's totally normal. If you feel imposter syndrome or like what am I doing with my life, that's completely normal too. And just know that you'll be able to figure it out along the way, and that's just part of the learning process, but you'll be okay.
Well, yeah, thank you again for you guys' time. That concludes the proctor section, if you will, of it. Now we're going to go into breakout rooms.